course, I think everybody knows Mo was a great guy. Great guy. He was a good guy to work for. I worked with him in the fire marshal's office about 6 years. He was my boss. Uh, he was the fire marshal. I was deputy fire marshal. And he was just a great guy. He loved to go to church all the time. He was involved in the church. Uh, he was their security guy at the church.
I always feel that so ironic because Mo is the sweetest guy in the world. I mean, he didn't have an aggressive bone in his body, but he was their security man.
Yeah, he and I went and got mandated as police officers 4 or 5 years ago, and after that, he became their security guy at the church. He had a voice that he could turn it up to a real deep voice, and that's how he would handle situations. His voice would just get real deep.
Big, strong. If you heard the voice, you would expect some big hulking man with a barrel chest, running around. But he just little old Mo. Yeah, yeah. And to kind of tag along with what Jerry said about Mo, he not only was he active in his church, but he lived his faith. He was strong, and I think he made us a little bit better through it.
He did. He was on me all the time about tightening up. He invited me to church every week. He lived it.
Mo's married to Miss Ann and 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
How many grandkids?
Got a grandson.
Yeah, got a grandson. Loved his family.
Ann would call and he would get on the phone with Ann, and she would talk, and he would finally. He said, Aunt, listen. Yes, it was comical. He was always there early. I would get to work and I'd roll in around 8, and he had been there I don't know how long. He was there when I left. He was a worker. He wanted to make sure that he had everything in order. And he was funny. He was a quiet guy, but he was a funny guy.
I always knew he was upset with me when he would call me Robert. Everybody calls me Robert. That's my name. But if he wasn't calling me Robbie, I knew I was in trouble with Mo. He'd get that deep voice, and, Robert, let's go.
And he'd come in the office on about a daily basis. He'd be out, and I'd be out doing inspections, what have you. And if I was in the office for him, he would walk in probably about every day. He's like, "What'd you do today?" Getting him in trouble. He's like, "What is it today?"
He was just happy. I mean, he loved everything about being at work. He loved everything about being at home. He loved everything about going off to school. He loved everything about getting out and running all over Hinesville. You couldn't bring him down and you couldn't slow him down.
There was no complaining. A lot of us like to complain about, stuff goes on at work and stuff. Mo was not a complainer.
I got a call from a buddy of mine. And, what was it, 38 guys at Fire Academy that didn't know Mo. They couldn't make it to the funeral, so they took his picture in and took a helmet to give him one last burn. Because even though they didn't know him, they had all heard of him, and they all knew what he was, and they loved him.
I mean, Mo was just an outstanding guy.
And more than anything, he was our friend. Heck with the uniform, heck with the service. Mo was our friend. Because that's the kind of person he was.